Kalimera, and welcome to Cooking with Katerina. Today we're going to make a delicious Greek cookie called Finikia. It's a honey-dipped cookie, and this recipe was given to me by my children's grandmother. I'm so excited to show you. So let's get started. Before we get started, I'm going to put something out there. Every Greek yaya and papu has their own recipe for making finikia. This is a special recipe that was given to me by my children's yaya. So, if your yaya or your papu has a recipe for finikia, I suggest you have them write it down for you. But we're going to get started with the recipe I know. The ingredients are 3 sticks of margarine, or 1.5 cups, 3/4 to a cup of fresh squeezed orange juice, and you want the pulp also, 2 cups of oil, and I use canola oil, 3/4 of a cup of sugar, 3 eggs, 2.5 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. Now in this large bowl, I have 8.5 cups of flour, and I have 1 cup in reserve because it depends on how much liquid that you have as to how much flour you're going to be adding. But we know for sure 8.5 cups is going to go into this mixture. That is going to be the first process before we form our cookies to bake them. And you're going to want to bake them at 375 for 10 to 12 minutes. Then, after they're baked, you are going to dip them in a honey and water mixture. You're going to need, for this amount of cookies, you will need 2 3/4 cup of honey and 1/4 cup of water plus 3 tablespoons of water that you're going to mix together and heat up to dip the cookies in. Now you won't add it all together, and we'll show you that process later, but that's what you're going to need to have. You're also going to need some walnuts, and what I do is I use a xylus to kind of grate the walnuts over top of the cookies once they've been dipped. And then you're going to sprinkle some cinnamon on them. So it all depends on you. Some of my family doesn't like the nuts on them, so all I do is sprinkle them with cinnamon. But again, it's entirely up to you. So let's get started with putting the dough together. What we're going to do is we're going to put the margarine, the oil, orange juice, sugar, the baking powder and baking soda in a bowl, and we're going to blend it with a hand mixer until it's blended really well. So I'm going to put all this in here and blend it and show you before we add our eggs. Just a little helpful hint here. If you haven't taken off your rings, I suggest now is a good time to do it, because once you start mixing that dough, it's going to get messy. So take off your rings and you'll be ready to go here. As you can see, I blended all of the other ingredients together and we're ready to add our eggs. So I'm going to add those and then beat them a little bit to get them all throughout this mixture. Now that we have the egg mixed in with our liquid mixture, we're going to start incorporating the flour. As I said, in the bowl I have 8.5 cups of flour, and then I have 1 cup in reserve in case we need it. So I'm going to start mixing this through with my hands, and we'll be back to show you what it looks like at that point. here's what the dough looks like. Now I used all 8.5 cups that I had in the bowl, and a half a cup more, which makes a total of 9 cups of flour in this dough. And as you can see, the dough is very pliable and soft. And what I usually do is for weddings or at Christmas time where I'm giving a lot of cookies out, or if people want to try different cookies, you really don't want to make them too big. I use one of these, which is a cookie baller, I guess, or you can use it for fruit, but I like it for cookies because it's just the right size. And I'll roll it in my hands and then kind of make it oblong like that, and I indent my finger so that when you're putting them in the honey, you're going to flip them over on both sides and let that honey just soak into the cookies. They're perfect. So you just lay them on your cookie sheet, and I will do a couple more for you to see. Make sure at this time that you have your oven preheated to 375. And again, you're going to cook the cookies for 10 to 12 minutes. They're not going to be too dark on top, but they will be a nice brown color on the bottom. So you can see the indentation. And I put them on the cookie sheet. Now you can set them very close together because they don't raise very much, and it's not like you're making a chocolate chip that'll run into each other. So you want to just put your finger there. If this tail is a little too long, just cut it off and then put it on the cookie sheet. Now I will continue making the cookies, and we'll be back when we're ready to take them out of the oven. Well, as you can see, the cookies have all baked, and this is what they look like on the bottom and then the top side. And I have them all in a pan ready to go so I can dip them. And I've also put my 2 3/4 cups of honey and the water and heated up the honey and the water together. So now we're ready to start dipping. And what I do is I use a frying pan, a smaller frying pan, and I start putting in the cookies upside down. And we will let them soak up, and as many as you can work with at a time is fine. Now I do want to mention that if you do make them bigger, of course you're not going to yield as many. And they do make, if you have a cookie exchange, this is like the perfect cookie because you'll have some for the cookie exchange and you'll have some for yourselves and your family. So what we'll do is take the fork and kind of press them down in the honey. And you can lower down the heat on the honey once it comes up to temperature. You just want to make sure that it does stay warm. And then you just flip around. And we'll get them all flipped. And once they've sat in the honey for just a little bit, we're going to take them out. And I'll show you how we're going to do the nuts and the cinnamon. These are ready to come out, and I take them out with a fork and I kind of let them drip into the pan a little. And you will see I have a cooling rack inside a cookie sheet pan. This makes it so much easier for them to cool after I put the nuts and the cinnamon on. And I will tell you this cookie freezes wonderfully. So I usually make them ahead of time and put them in an airtight container, stick them in the freezer, and I will pull them out as I need them. Okay, I put a second batch in the honey and these have come out. I've got my nuts in the xylus, and what I'm going to do is just go over the tops of them. As you can see here. And you can put as much of the nuts on it as you'd like. And then in between this and putting the cinnamon on, I'm going to flip the ones I have in the frying pan so that they get the other side in the honey. And I'll be ready to put the cinnamon on the cookies I've taken out. Let me get these last couple ones flipped over. Okay, and just kind of take your cinnamon and shake it across the cookies, and they are done. Then you want to let them cool before you put them in a container, and I kind of crisscross them, and they're very easy then to get out when you need them. I'm going to continue, and I will see you when it's time to taste test. I hope you enjoyed this video, and let me know if you've tried this recipe. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you get the latest videos that'll be coming out. And also like and share with your family and friends. I'd really appreciate it. And check out some of the other videos that'll be popping up on the screen. Now it's time to taste test, my favorite part. Oh my goodness. This is a labor of love, and your family and friends are really going to enjoy it. So, in the meantime, keep on cooking.